Folks, I apologize. This is the most complicated system we've ever dealt with because it's Facebook Live through this, and I don't understand this projector. I'm going to try to get through a quick review, and then at 6 o'clock or so, Dr. Jakubowski will be here. We're going to demonstrate some things that I think will help you with the topic that we had this week. Okay, so this is actually Dr. Jakubowski here showing us the squat. So this was about strength fitness and managing back pain. This is really, really important. I know you can't see that very well. It says upper cross versus lower cross syndrome. A lot of us have these problems. If you've got neck pain, if you've got bursitis of your shoulder, you have an upper cross syndrome that we're gonna help you understand how to fix this. Lower cross syndrome is your back, low back pain. That's most of the reason why people have back pain. That's a muscle imbalance. Muscles too tight, muscles too loose. So we have to fix that. If you watch the video, hopefully that made a little bit more sense. Another point I wanted to make is that this impact of muscle loss. So this slide tells us that nearly 25% of senior citizens are affected by the loss of muscle. You don't want to lose muscle. You shouldn't lose muscle. You should maintain muscle. 60% of 80-year-olds are affected by muscle loss. So we call that sarcopenia. When you start losing a lot of muscle, when you hit your 80s, you've lost a lot of muscle, you're going to be very frail, very unstable. You can break bones, you fall. So we don't want to lose muscle. There's a price to pay to not keeping your muscles toned and strong. Most people don't realize that. This is just shows you what happens with aging and muscle loss. And what I really wanted to point out here is that almost all of these you can do something about. So if you understand how to maintain muscle, you understand the role of these different factors, we can maintain muscle. Okay, so this is actually showing you the different reasons why we lose muscle. We don't eat enough, that's cachexia, so we don't have protein to build the muscle. We're going to talk about hormones a lot next week. When your hormones drop, you will lose muscle. When your hormones are optimal, you'll gain muscle back. I don't care what age we're talking about. My 95-year-old dad is on testosterone for his muscle and his strength and stability. Neurodegenerative diseases like MS and Lewy body dementia. Some of those, you have that, you can't really do much about that. But probably the biggest one is this one right here. Just not understanding how to use your muscles to maintain your strength. And then we go back to these conditions, which often have to do with insulin resistance, obesity, diabetes. We want to manage these better because these hormones help to optimize your muscle growth. Okay, and this is just a simple slide. This was from a study talking about nursing home patients who increase their strength. And the key here is none of you are in the nursing home yet. Hopefully you never have to go there. But specific improvement in gait velocity, so how fast you walk, being able to climb stairs, and your balance was documented in these older people. So all of us at any age can get stronger and have better balance and better strength. These are just some images of people. Wendy Ida, 64 years old, she started fitness at 43. This lady here, Ernestine Shepard, she started working out at 56. And look at her there at 81. This guy, Dr. Life, I actually know Dr. Life because some of the conferences I went to. He was 57 here. He'd just undergone a divorce. He was a busy internist living in Pennsylvania, and his life was falling apart. He was about ready to just give up on life. And he started doing a combination of hormone, just basic hormone replacement, and exercise, and you can see him here at 70. And he's 75 now, and he still looks the same way. So we talked about the benefits of getting stronger. I'm not going to read these, but I'm trying to convince you there's a lot of reasons why you need to be spending time with resistance training in the gym or at home. So how do you develop strength fitness? You have to fatigue the muscles. You have to give them some resistance. If you go to a gym and you're just going through the motions and you're not sore the next day, you've not stimulated your muscles enough to get any growth or even to get stronger. I mean, you're keeping your joints moving, but that's about it. So you have to fatigue the muscles with some type of resistance.
I'm sorry.
And you want to stretch these major muscle groups, at least once a week. So my goal is when I exercise, I want to be sore for 3 or 4 days. And actually, the guy that trains me usually makes me hurt for almost a week. So when somebody's there helping you, it's even more effective. So initially, you're trying to do 3 sets of an exercise where you can't move the weight any more than 12 to 15 times. So the 12th rep, you can't get any more. 15th rep, if you can do 16 repetitions, it's too light. You need to go higher weight. Okay. And it's really important that you use the right technique. And you would be amazed that you really need a personal trainer or somebody that knows how to help you with the machine. I am so insecure now when I walk in a gym looking at equipment because I thought I knew how to use everything. I don't. I was in the gym Saturday doing a leg workout, and I thought I had figured it out because I'd been working with a trainer for 5 weeks, and my back was sore more than my legs and my buttocks. So I wasn't doing something right. When you do, people do rows all the time. You reach out like this and you do a row. That motion right there could flare up a shoulder bursitis. That's the wrong way to do a row. People don't even understand what muscle of the group they're working on. The row is for the lat muscle right here. So when you do a row, you put your shoulders way back like that, squeeze your shoulder blades together, reach out. That's the starting motion. That's the ending motion. As soon as your arms go like that you relieve the tension on your lats, they're not even working, and you're gonna impinge your shoulder. That's just one exercise. So you really, if you wanna do this safely, you really need somebody to, I think, to help you with it. Okay, and then you never want to hold your breath. As you're exerting the energy, if you're doing a bench press, it's air in, and as you push the weight or the resistance, that's when you breathe out. But you don't hold your breath. You can get a really bad headache, and if you have high blood pressure, you can really make things bad. Okay, so it's really important that you have somebody watching you to make sure you're doing things right. So these are the major muscle groups. The upper body does two things. It pushes and pulls. This is a push, this is a push, this is a push. And then pulling motions are any motion like this, anything where you're pulling. So you do pushing motions for one group of exercise and pulling for the other. The core muscles are what most people neglect, and if you're talking about just everyday strength and stability and just protecting yourself from a fall, you really want to work on the core muscles. We'll demonstrate that with Dr. Jakubowski. But the core muscles do three things. They bend you forward, they flex you back, and they twist you from side to side. So any exercise that does those motions will help your core. And then the lower body exercises are, of course, the buttocks and the legs. And I've tried to simplify this. The quad muscles and the glutes and the calves are pushing muscles. So when I do this, when I step off here, I'm using my calf muscle. It's a pushing muscle. And then the pulling motions like this are the hamstrings and the front of the leg. The leg exercises should be pretty simple. It's just anything that mimics standing up from a chair is going to be a good leg exercise. This guy, Dr. Soto of Japan, has a really cool technique that I mentioned on the video. And this is something that Walter Reed Hospital started to use in 2012 with soldiers who had were threatening to lose a limb because they'd had a severe injury. So they've lost muscle, they've lost blood flow, and they're trying to keep the muscle and blood flow there so they can recover. What they found is if they put a band like this on the arms with a very light weight and have them do it maybe 30 times and then rest for 30 seconds and then do it again, what happens is this causes blood flow in your arm, and the venous blood flow isn't getting back out, so the muscle swells up with blood. It causes a buildup of lactic acid, the chemical that makes your muscles sore. But here's some of the benefits of this. Let's see, got a little ahead of myself, but this is amazing. So this is kind of telling you how they do it. And here's the benefits. This is really cool stuff. So when you do this exercise, think of a soldier trying to not lose their leg or their arm. They do this. Think of us. I used these bands today when I was in the gym. So you get an increase in stimulus for this brain-derived neurotrophin factor. It's like fertilizer for the brain. So you'll think more clearly just by doing exercises with this, because you're making that chemical go up in your brain. You get an increase in muscle growth because you're blocking a hormone that stops muscle growth. It's like your body, if you keep lifting weights, your chest muscles could get huge. So there's got to be a feedback that says, no, we're not going to let you get any bigger. But most people want to have bigger muscles, so this will allow the muscles to respond and get bigger. It increases stem cell production. If we could all have stem cells in our knees and our hips and our shoulders, we wouldn't have any pain. Stem cells become the tissue that they're nearest to. So you increase stem cells by 300% by doing this. So theoretically, just the exercises I did today, the pushing exercises with the bands on, I'm increasing my stem cell production by 300%. So the wear and tear in my knee, I should be making more cartilage just because I'm doing this exercise with the upper body. Here's a really cool one, vascular endothelial growth factor. This is what causes blood vessels to grow and capillaries to grow. So if you've got a blockage in your heart and you had a stent in it, or there's a narrowing in the artery of the heart, the body will grow capillaries around that blockage to help you get blood to that part of the muscle. But this stimulates the growth of those blood vessels. So you get all these benefits. You get benefits to your brain, to your muscles, to your stem cells, which can be anything, and it can help lower blood pressure. And it also, we know it increases the production of natural nitric oxide, which helps lower blood pressure, helps with erections, helps with cognition, everything. So this is a really cool therapy. After the military started using this, then major leagues, professional sports started to catch on to it. Now they're doing this as part of the rehab in the NBA and the NFL and all major sports. They're using this. What I got was a $30 4 bands that you can tighten to your own liking from Amazon. If you're in the NBA or you're at Walter Reed recovering, this is like thousands of dollars worth of equipment to find the exact right pressure to slow the blood down. So I tighten mine up enough that I can still feel my radial pulse, but it feels tight and it makes my arm swell because the blood's not going back.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do you always put it on your arm?
Yeah, well, if you're doing upper body arm exercises,
Okay,
you
so
put
if
it
you're
there.
doing, like, for knees,
If you're doing it for knee, you have bigger ones that go up closer to your groin. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is you should all just challenge yourself because you never know where you might end up in a couple years. My last time I did a competitive pole vault, I was 18 years old, and I thought, I don't want to ever give this up. I want to keep doing this. But, how am I going to have a chance to do this again? And then it was probably 10 years ago, my son was at the track pole vaulting, and I was watching him. I just picked up a pole and started bouncing and looked down the runway, and he said, "Dad, don't even think about it." And I said, "Just get out of the way. I'm going to try this." And it all came back, except when I swung up, I thought I ripped the muscles right off my buttocks. It was painful. But then it was like, well, I survived that. Okay, put the bar up at 5 feet, 6 feet. And before you know it, I'm pole vaulting again. And, this was 2 years ago. So it's something that I enjoy doing. I started working out in the gym, and this is an exercise that's a really good core movement. We might demonstrate it, but you take your leg here and you swing it underneath here and you turn sideways, and then you come back and you alternate with the other legs. But it's a really hard maneuver, but it's good exercise. I did handstands when I was in high school. And I was at my daughter's, we had a picnic at my daughter's wedding reception, and I was telling my nephew, I said, "Dylan, when I was your age, I used to be able to do this." And I would squat down kind of in this position and pop up into a handstand. And I did it. That was like 3 years ago. I was like, holy cow, I'm lifting weights, and that came back, 58 years old. So now I can stand on my hands. I can stand on my hands on the beach, in the sand, anywhere. I play basketball. I don't play that great, but I play basketball, and I love it. When I was in college, I learned this maneuver on a high bar, and I thought, this was 3 years ago, I thought, I'm going to try this again and see if I can get it to work. Okay, so this was my fail. We were down at the New Philly football practice field. I saw this bar. I said, "Karen, take a video of this. I want to document that I can still do this." So this is what happened. Whoops. Why didn't that work? Huh. Are these not going to play? Let's see here. Here we go. I couldn't quite get it up there. And I tried again, I still couldn't do it. And then my wife said, "Just accept that you're getting old. Quit trying to be this way." And that made me really mad. I'm like, do you want me to do 20 push-ups right now? Don't tell me I'm getting old. So I started training a little bit harder, and it got a little bit easier. So let me show you what happened, and with just a little bit of practice. So now I got more goals, more things I want to do. I used to, when I was in high school, I could do 17, 18 chin-ups. I was still doing them when I was 47. I could hardly do one. And I thought I need to get back to that. So I started training, and you guys will have to count this. Okay, so that's not bad for 60 years old.
He doesn't go all the way down.
I know. He's never seen me do that. Okay, and I also, when I was a kid, actually I took a diving class in college. I'm doing all the stuff my dad used to do. He used to be a really good diver, so none of my athleticism is even close to what he could do on a diving board or on the track. Or he was able to do a one-handed pull-up on a bar, just hang there like this and do 3 of them. I never even come close to that. But this was a while ago at the swimming pool. So I wanted to see if I hadn't done any diving for 10 years. I'm like, I'm not going to stop diving just because I haven't done it in a while. So that was a pretty good backflip. And then I thought, it has been 20 years, 25 years probably since I've tried to do any diving off the high dive. And I told myself I was going to do this to show my granddaughter. But nobody knew I was going to do it. And I was like, I got to do it now because they're going to close the pool. And I was scared, like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. But I told myself I was going to do it, that I wasn't too old to do a 1.5 off the high dive. So here's my 1.5. Crash. And I got out of the pool, and the kid's just like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, it wasn't too bad, but my back was killing me. So I'm glad my daughter recorded that, because I'm not afraid next time. I know exactly what I got to do different. So my dad's last competitive dive, he was 55. I watched him do it, a 1.5 with a full twist off the high. I've never done that, but I'm going to keep doing this dive. Then I wanted to show you somebody I know from the gym. I don't know if anybody knows Danara LaMonica down at Barbells, okay? This was her a couple years ago. Pretty average looking girl, right? Let me show you what happened to her a year after she started lifting weights the right way and eating the right way. You'll think this isn't even the same person.
Oh my gosh. You gotta be kidding me.
See, that's what somebody's going to say about you someday. Are you kidding me? You're not the same person I knew.
That's not her.
All right, now, for those of you who are like, yeah, she's 25, I'll never be 25 again. Let me show you a 90-year-old. Let me show you what William Bell is doing here at the age of 90. See if this will play for us. Oh, shoot. Now, wait a minute now. Maybe this has to load. Oh, here it is. Oh, shoot, I'm not going to play. Let's try it one more time. This is a world record jump for this 90-year-old. Oh, it's not going to play. You have to Google his name, William Bell, a 90-year-old pole vaulter. His son actually won a silver medal in the Olympics in the pole vault, and he's down in I think it's Arkansas. They have a clinic, and he did 7 feet 2 inches barefoot, nothing on but a pair of shorts. I wish I could make this play for you because it's pretty neat. And then his wife said he was just showing off for the camera. It's pretty cute. All right. So then we talked about what happens when you violate these principles. And this, my back problems, I talked about this before, so I'm going to skip this. So I'm going to get to Dr. Jakubowski. Okay, so we talked about these stretches. And a good way to stretch the hip flexor, right here, which is so tight on all of us, is this. You see how that's flexed? That's perfect, 30 degrees, that's where it should be. But she's not leaning forward, she's straight up and down. And the knee position is perfect. You never want the knee ahead of the toe because that's too much stress on your knee and you can hurt your knee. So that's a really good position for a lunge. Try to go through these kind of quick. Now here's Dr. J didn't know he was going to be featured tonight. See if I can make this work. It's probably not going to work, but we'll see. Oh yes, look at Dr. J doing lunges. I had to really encourage him because he was about ready to just quit, but he's got nice form, and we had dumbbells just to give it a little bit more. But can you see how it stretches the hips, but it's really good for the buttocks there because now you got to come up. So stretching this, tightening this is actually a really good exercise for the low back if you do it right. Okay. So we talked about the back pain, and this is a posture you don't want because if your posture is like this on the right for long enough, you're stuck that way. The bones are gonna fuse together. This is one way to tell if you've got that condition where the neck is the head's forward. And I was trying to show you here how you do this, but basically you lay down on the floor, and if your neck is really forward, you drop your head back, your eyes are gonna go that direction. If you lay flat with your head on the floor and your eyes are straight above you, then you got pretty good neck posture. But if your head drops back and you see the ceiling above you, opposite you, then the posture is not good, and you need to work on it before it becomes frozen. We talk about back pain. This is what the disc is like. It's got all these circles around it, like circles on a tree, rings on a tree. So over time, you have one little injury, and this starts to break down a little bit. You can see this gel in the middle starts to break down, and you keep injuring this, and it's not a bad injury. And then one day you pick up a pencil off the floor, and it's just enough trauma to the disc that it completely rips this open, and the gel goes out, pushes on your nerve root, and now you have pain down your leg, and it's not going to go away till it's addressed. So it can happen that easily. And these are some of the mechanisms of the pain. And this is what happens to your joints when you don't move them. Your body says, you haven't done a somersault in 30 years. You don't need a flexible back, so we're just going to freeze this. So speaking of somersaults, this is about 10 years ago. My little kids were doing somersaults, and then the bigger kids, and they said, "Dad, can you still do one?" I said, "I think so." I did it and kind of crashed on the floor, but I survived. And then they said, "Grandpa, can you do one?" He said, "Sure." Now he's 85 years old. I thought, "Dad, don't try that." And he kind of did this somersault and kind of stopped on top of his head, and then he went down. But he's probably too old to be doing somersaults. Okay, so this is causes of back pain. If you got back pain, Dr. J can add to this, but it's one of 3 or 4 things. It's arthritis, which I have arthritis right there. That aches at times. It's a tear in the disc. So one time at the Pittsburgh airport, there goes on the carousel, there goes my big heavy suitcase. And I did the exact wrong movement. You never bend and twist and lift. That's a recipe to blow a disc out. It's exactly what I did. There goes my bag. I got to get it, so I bent like this, and I swung it this way to get it off, and I hurt my back. So I had a little tear there. If I keep doing that, eventually it's going to completely rupture. So we do these micro tears all the time, and we don't realize it because it gets better. But that's how you end up with a ruptured disc. And those are, when these fibers tear, they're very painful. And then the last reason for back pain is the muscles just being too tight, and that's where most of my problem is. Today I had a massage that was worked on my back and it feels pretty good. But when this is tight, you're gonna have back pain. So it's not always a surgical fix. Most of the time, you gotta know why you have it, and then you gotta address the root cause. Okay, and then, did you guys do this exercise?
Yes.
Okay, everybody tried to balance
Yes,
themselves
yeah.
on one foot, so you know what that felt like? Okay, so this is something, I just can't overemphasize the importance of this right here. When you get older and you start losing your balance, why do you lose your balance? Well, the first thing, 10% of your balance comes from your eyes. So if I stand like this, 1 foot, no problem. If I close my eyes, it's a little bit more of a challenge,
Right.
because I lose that, right? So when you get older, don't get up in a dark room and go to the bathroom, turn a light on, because my dad made that mistake, crashed, fell in a dark bedroom, broke 9 ribs, and he got in bed with it. He just crashed, took some Advil. Next morning, he couldn't get out of bed. It was 4 firemen that got him out, and he was in the trauma unit for 2 or 3 days with these fractured ribs. So that's just not smart. The 20% of your balance comes from your inner ear. You can't really do much about that. But look at this, 70% comes from the bottom of your feet. So when you sprain your ankle and we put you in an air cast and say don't move it, and then we take you out of the air cast, your balance on that foot is terrible. You can't even hold it because you haven't used it. So the best way to improve your overall balance is to challenge it. I could sit down in the morning and put my socks on at the edge of my bed, but I'd rather do this and put my socks on this way and challenge my balance. I'd rather do other things to challenge it so that it's good, right? Because this really improves quickly if you work on it. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to go over this. Chronic low back pain ages the brain 10 to 20 times faster than people that don't have back pain. So find a way to get out of your back pain. This is really important to understand also, because if you keep injuring your tissue over and over again, just little things, just posture, sitting too long all the time and never stretching your low back, you start to get scar tissue and adhesions. The massage therapist today said she saw one of her patients who was having terrible shoulder pain. She was crying in pain. And Stacy said, I knew her well, and I just distracted her. As we're talking, I was moving her arm and rubbing her muscles, and she said after a few minutes, boom, it just released. The scar tissue in there just released, and the lady started crying. And Stacy's like, did I hurt you? She said, no, the pain's finally gone. I mean, it was that simple, just that scar tissue. You do the same thing over and over again, you'll end up with scar tissue. So you have to be really careful about this, because once you get scar tissue, it tightens everything up, and now you hurt more. So, and then the shoulder, the joint doesn't move right, and then you have more stress on it. So don't live in pain. Find somebody to help you get out of that pain. Okay, so we do a lot of things at home that are probably not the best for our posture at work and at home. And something Dr. Jakubowski taught me that's really simple is never bend and twist. Never vacuum like this, because there's your twist. So you always follow your toes. You go this way, you go this way, but never that way, because it's too much stress. Repeated stress over and over again, you can end up with back pain and problems that you don't want to have to live with. This is a really good exercise we'll demonstrate, and then these are the assignments that I gave you. Next week we're going to talk about preventing the 2 major causes of death, cancer and heart disease. We'll talk about some screening tests. We'll talk about immunization. We'll spend most of the time on hormones, because they're really, really important for all of us to understand. Okay, so that's the end of the formal. Mike, if you want to come up, we can talk about some of the things that we were going over here. So I'll try to find let's talk first about upper and lower cross. I'll try to get back to one of those slides. Oops. Oh, it's not going to work that way, huh? Okay, so I can find this slide again. Where was it? It was up here. Okay. I don't know if that'll show or not. There we go. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so like Dr. McKnight said, I'm Mike Jakubowski. I'm a chiropractor down in Denison with Twin City Chiropractic. But one thing, with all the injuries and all the stuff you guys went over in this class about back pain, how muscles are real important to all that. The nerve thing, the proprioception that was in that one slide, how important that is, because nerves, stimulating those are important for core muscles like your abs and things like that keep you healthy and strong and support your back. But what we see a lot of is this upper and lower cross syndrome that is presented almost daily in people, especially nowadays when we work at desks, work at a computer all day, especially maybe we're in a factory pulling a lever all day. But that's our society nowadays. We're at our computers, we're sitting at home, sitting on the couch. And certain muscles become tight and certain muscles become weak. And if we look, and what side here? Let's see. Okay, so do you have both on here? Upper and lower? Or is this just upper? Okay. So,
Yes, it's up. It's both.
okay, so when we have the upper cross syndrome, we look at it and we kind of draw an X where that neck and head is, right? And that's when we're sitting at a computer, we're hunched forward. And what happens when we do this day in and day out and working 8 hours a day, or we're at our computer at home, working at a computer or surfing the internet, or even watching TV, what we see happen when we're like this, the first thing that develops is the core muscles of our neck become weak. So you have abs that support your lower back. Well, you also have muscles in your deep layers of your neck next to your spine that become weak from that. So your body has to respond to that. They're like, these muscles deep in my core that support my neck aren't supporting it. So basically what we're going to do is other muscles. I'm going to create other muscles to help support my neck. And what we see happen is things become tighter. Our pecs become tighter because we're rolled forward. These big muscles on the side of our neck become tighter because they have to help support our neck. And then we see our upper trap and muscles at the back of our head, called the suboccipital muscles, have to tighten up to keep our head on the horizon. So one thing we know is we ever see someone really hunched over but they could still look forward? Our body with all those nerves tells us we have a righting reflex. What that means is our brain tells us to keep our eyes on the horizon. So if we're hunched forward, we're not going to look down. It's going to bring our head up. So all these other muscles have to recruit for that upper cross syndrome, and through time that develops. This way.
Trying to get you on the camera.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize there was a camera. So, so what we have to do from there is basically correct that. So how do we do that? Is we have to stretch our pecs out, okay? We have to build our deep core muscles, and then we have to stretch these upper traps and build strength in our back to keep our body upright so we're not hunched and develop this issue. So a lot of people that come to my office have upper cross syndrome because we sit at computers all day.
Can I just demonstrate that this
Yeah.
muscle here? You can do this at home and find out if these muscles are weak. It's pretty simple. If you lay flat, and then you kind of tuck your chin into your chest like this, and then lift your head up and hold it. If your head starts to shake and wobble, that's a sign that that muscle is too weak and it's not able to do that. Okay, so if you do that for 30 seconds, you start to wiggle, you'll know that you're weak here because your head's always down like this.
So if we look at, is there a camera that we have to be right here? So is there someone at classes at home that are watching this?
People at home. What are you seeing, Kelly? It's just right here?
I'm seeing the top of Dr. J's head.
The top of his head.
Yeah. 'cause
That's not
he's
very good to
shorter
look
than
at.
you, so-
Oh, so right here, this camera on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Here, that's what we're looking
So if we look at Dr. McKnight here, and he has upper cross syndrome, you can almost see his palms are rolled in a little bit. He has his shoulders rolled forward and his pecs are tight. What we'll end up seeing is upper traps are real tight here. And then these muscles in the back of his head become real tight because they have to hold his head up.
So when I had my massage today, it was really tender through here.
Okay. So how do we correct those things? Okay, for this type of issue. Well, one way we correct it in a real simple one for upper cross and it'll be hard to show people on the camera here, but it's called a wall angel or a floor angel. So you just want to create things that are opposite of what you do every day. One way to do that is you're here and you bring your arms back, here like this, all right? You want your palms and your elbows touching the ground, knees bent. Okay, so right here alone, you correct some of that posture that you can have with upper cross. The other thing you do is you start to slide your arms down, keeping your hands and elbows down, and then you'll squeeze in to your ribs here, trying to keep your arms down like this. Okay, hold it for about 5 seconds, and you come back up, and then do it again.
Yeah, don't be afraid to stand up and get where you can see him better, it's okay.
So he likes to show off how perfect he is. I'll show you how bad I am. You can see, because it does, I mean, I don't think my posture's terrible, but it's not as good as it should be, because I'm tight.
So again, he's gonna wanna have those knees bent, all right? So, see, and now we look, because he has that upper cross syndrome, his elbows are not touching the ground, are they?
Yeah.
Okay?
This one's even more often.
Yeah, so not only is his shoulders tight, so we see this type of upper cross with rotator cuff injuries, rotator cuff tears are associated with this. So many problems of daily life, headaches, neck pain, all this stuff is associated with upper cross. So this is very simple exercises you can do to help correct that.
So when I come down like this,
Yep. And he's really forcing his elbow and hands to stay on the ground. And you think, this exercise is easy, I can do that. And then he wants to squeeze. He wants to squeeze in his elbows into the side, and his arms are gonna wanna come up. So right now, I bet you his back is cramping up, and his shoulders and everything.
yeah, it's cramping.
It almost hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a simple exercise that just strengthens those other muscles and trying to stretch the muscles that are so tight on it.
So go ahead and stand on your hands.
So one other way you can do that is you can do a wall angel. So wall angels become more difficult. So as that exercise gets easy, then you lean against the wall and do it. And you just do 10 to 15 and squeeze those muscles together. Because when we do that, if I show you on Dr. McKnight again, it builds the lower trap, low to mid trap. When you make this stronger, it'll take tension off the upper trap that's so tight.
This is what was cramping on me just now, because that's kind of weak there.
And you think that exercise is easy, but the muscle's so weak, that simple exercise causes it to hurt.
And I was having shoulder problems for a year, knowing what I needed to do, except I forgot one thing. I wasn't stretching my pectoral muscles out. So when the massage therapist got into the pec muscles and started working, it was very painful. But 30 minutes later, my shoulder problem was gone, because it just put my shoulder in the right position, and it was amazing.
So that's one great exercise. The other one is a row. So if you have the rubber bands, you can kind of do a row where you kind of pull back. You open up the chest. You're building the lower to mid trap. That's a great exercise. And I did a study at school for is the deep core muscles of your neck, and that comes into. Can I show them again if you lay on your back? Is this one where he said to test the muscles to see if they're weak, and you just want that, just a hand right below here, just right down, like this. So it's just maybe even an inch off the ground. You tuck the chin, and then hold it there, and he should be down just a little bit further. So you just want to be able to put your hand down there. And then you start to see people shake, it's hard to do. And that's that deep core. So one way you can build this is just do this. Tuck your chin and then come up just that inch. And then hold it for about 10 seconds and then put it down. Okay? So it's not like all this muscle building or strengthening or weights, but something simple to build those deep core muscles. And you should see your headaches improve, or if you have neck pain, and just real simple exercises like that. Okay? Anything else you want to
No, I
add to
think
that?
that's pretty good for the upper cross.
So then that comes into scar tissue, and like that circle thing he showed you were repetitive injuries. If you do 8 hours of sitting at a desk and at a computer, you have to do some of these other things, 3 times a week. A few reps of them will help out a lot. Okay, and then we get into the lower cross, and the same thing, if we look at this guy up here, is when we sit all day on our butt, what's going to happen to it? It gets weak, right? So most back pain that I see in my office, it's not a weak back that causes it. It's actually weak glutes and weak core that causes it. So a lot of people are like, my back hurts, I gotta make my back stronger. And sometimes that's a huge mistake, it can make problems worse. So we have to look at this, because we look at the lower cross, when we're sitting all day, the glutes get weak, okay? The muscle that's across from that
Right here, the
is-
abs.
is the abs. So our abs get weak. We're not using them, we're not stimulating our core, so they get weak. So then we see the opposite of that. Other muscles have to be recruited to help your back because you're not have the right muscle tone. So then we see the lower back muscles, the erectors, the big muscles of your back become too tight. Okay? And that's why we don't work just these muscles when we have back problems, because you're making a tight muscle tighter. Okay? And then what we see also happen is the psoas muscle. It's this huge muscle that runs from your spine to your hips, and that thing's always in a short position as you're sitting, and when that becomes really tight and just pulls on your back. Okay?
So this is the posture. If you get out of the car or a long drive and you walk like this, you got lower cross syndrome. You won't walk like that very long because that's embarrassing. So you'll overcome that by standing straight up, but your body's gonna pull you down, and you're using these muscles, overusing them to compensate for how tight these are.
One way you can tell, like, if you look at pregnant women, they all have lower cross. The reason why is because the baby's weight's here. And the psoas muscle, that big muscle, stretches, and you'll see they walk with their toes out too. So if you have a tight psoas, sometimes you'll see those people, it'll externally rotate their feet, and that's associated with lower cross too, this tight muscle. So then we gotta correct that, right? We gotta build our glutes up, we have to build our core up, and then now we gotta stretch the psoas muscle, our hip flexors, and then we gotta stretch our lower back, okay? So one great exercise for that, and Dr. McKnight showed you, is a lunge, right? So if we do a lunge, here you're stretching your psoas, all right? Here, you're kind of putting a lot of pressure on your glute, and then you have to extend up, okay? Because the glute's an extender of your hip, it makes it go backwards, all right? And then you gotta come up, and then again, so you're stretching the psoas and building the glute up at the same time. So lunges are great. However, if you have bad knees, that could be an issue with it. So another easy one, again, you're on the floor, here is called a bridge. All right, so if we get here, bend our knees up, and basically what we're gonna do, we have our hands flat, and we wanna build our core, like I said. So does everybody know what a Kegel exercise is? Basically stop yourself from going to the bathroom, right? That's a great core exercise for everybody. So when we're here, Kegel, stomach muscle strong, and then just raise up off the ground here. All right, squeeze your butts. And this is called a bridge exercise. Squeeze up, hold for 5 seconds, and then go back down. All right, again, Kegel, stomach muscle strong, and then up. So you can advance to the lunges, but if you do a bridge at first, that's an easy one. You don't have to extend way up here, because now you're engaging your back muscles, but just kind of extend up, so you're clenching your butt together, squeezing, and then holding, and you're good. Okay?
And if your balance isn't good for a lunge, you can do it, next to a counter. You can hold on to something to keep your balance in check. But just remember, as you go down, if you're leaning forward like this, you're not really stretching the hips as much as you could, as if you're upright. And then if you're upright and then you reach like this, you'll really feel it stretch the hip flexors.
Yeah. And that's where we see a lot of back issues, because when people say, boy, when I walk a lot, that's when my back really starts to hurt. Well, if you have weak glute muscles, the first muscle, when you go to take a step and your legs extended backwards, the first muscle that should activate is your butt. It's the main job is to bring it back. But if it's not activating, your body's like, okay, I gotta take this muscle, the back muscle, and help you bring your leg back. And that's why when people walk far or start to do a walk and they're like, man, my back's starting to kill me, is most of the time it's because their glutes are weak associated with it, okay? And they're recruiting their back to help them walk. And that seems silly, but that's what they're doing. So these are very simple exercises. And if you can't do the bridge, you're like, man, this is hard. Just, when you're laying on your ground, just Kegel and squeeze your butt together and hold it for 5-10 seconds, And then work your way up to kind of coming up more. Then you have the lunge, that's more advanced. And then if we look at this exercise ball, you know, if you have one of these are great for everything. I mean, you don't have to lay on the floor, but you can come here and then extend up. And then you have balance, so you're creating proprioception. All those nerves you're stimulating that create balance and work your core too. So, but again, and those are some great ways of correcting the lower cross and the upper cross syndrome. Did you want to add anything to that?
You want to just talk about sitting on that ball, what it does for the spine and?
Yeah. So, I think, so when you guys stood on one leg at home, right? It's not that easy to do. First you do it and you start to lose your balance, right? And Dr. McKnight put up on the slide, 70% of that's in your leg and so on, but a lot of that is core. So core is definitely associated with proprioception or nerves. So that's why they have these exercise balls. You're like, why do we gotta exercise on this thing? Because when you exercise, it creates an unbalanced surface for you. So you gotta unbalance yourself on this thing. When you do that, you're stimulating your brain and all the muscles along your spine, which are part of your core. You're stimulating your muscles of your stomach, which is part of your core. And it's all these small muscle fibers are being stimulated to build more strength. And that's why you exercise on the ball. So even if you just sit here and bounce on it, or you kind of move and just shake on it, it's facilitating all those nerves and muscles. So you're building core just by being on this thing. You're stimulating those nerves. So it helps balance, it helps all the nerves as you get older. So then if you start doing other exercises here and coming up, you got to balance so you don't tumble over. You're stimulating core. You can lift weights on it. You can do the curls. You can do some of your band exercise. You can do the row exercise for upper cross by sitting on this thing. So you just have a lot of options, really light weights or with your bands, but add proprioceptive exercises to it. So.
You can also do a wall squat with that ball too.
Yeah. Maybe right over here.
Against the door maybe? Yeah.
My luck, someone will open it. But if we do here, again, have your legs out in front of you so you don't put too much strain on your knees. I'm not a huge fan of squats where people have weights on their shoulders or here and you're squatting because you're leaning way forward to keep your balance. But if we do here, your legs out in front of you, your back's nice and straight, and you're coming down and then coming back up with it. Really simple exercise. You need proprioceptus so you don't roll off of it to the wall, and just another easy exercise to do to stimulate all those things. All right.
That covered
Any
most of
qu-
what you're thinking. Yeah.
I think
You guys
so.
have any questions
Where do you
about
buy
this?
a ball like that?
So they come in different sizes. So there's 55, 65, and 75 centimeter balls. And you can get them at Walmart. Just get an anti-burst one. Walmart or anywhere, they're pretty inexpensive.
Sporting goods store, what have you.
Yeah.
too.
So
What size would I need?
you would need a 55. So if you go, if you look on the boxes, it tells you by your height which one you should buy. Yeah. So.
Mhm.
So if you have pain when you're walking, is it okay to just keep walking and hopefully that'll?
Yeah, so that's the thing that probably limits most people that I see too, is when they are walking, and they have some of those issues, and that muscle imbalance is, how can they even keep walking, or does the pain get so bad they just have to stop it? But yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to keep your activity going as much as you can. And if you're having pain while you walk, how are we going to correct some of those things? And either talking to somebody or trying some of these exercises for the lower cross to see how much it helps, and figuring that out so you can walk 3 miles if you want to, or 2 miles or 1 mile, and not have an issue with it. So I think it's important to keep active, but not let the pain limit you, because you have to get that back. Because through this class and through Fit for Life, if you stop moving, it just deteriorates your joints, your bones, and you saw how bad that arthritis gets. Joints feed off of motion, so if you're not moving them, no nutrients gets into the tissue to feed it and keep it soft. So your body's reaction to it is it calcifies it, and that's bone spurs and all those other things. And things just get worse, and you can't get it back once you have that. So yeah, movement's key, and to keep walking is perfect. And when I try to see people that have injuries through athletics or whatnot, the goal is not to just stop it, But hey, continue your activity and while we try to figure this thing out. So, any other questions on any of that? Yeah.
What's a good thing for your knees?
Knees become a tough issue too, because if it's arthritic in nature, we gotta limit too much pressure. Then like a lunge could be a problem with you, but like biking, a stationary bike would be huge for it. Just exercise walking. Elliptical machines are easier on the knee. I'm sure you've heard of some of those machines.
I think
Those are great
what you
ones.
don't want to do is put your knee ahead of your toe. So on an elliptical, you're probably going to be more in that motion. If you're doing lunges like that, that's going to be really hard on it.
If you don't have a structural problem with your knee, it also could be your hips associated with your knee pain. What we know is some of the glute muscles that become weak can cause knee pain. Because again, that gets into the lower cross. We're getting kind of detailed here, but the lower cross syndrome can cause knee problems also. And that's because some of the glute muscles are weak, so other leg muscles are recruited to help you walk and do things. So sometimes people have a knee problem, we tell them to exercise their hips so the knee problem can get better. So I hope that answers your question. Yes. Any others? No?
So if anybody would like to see Dr. J, did you bring some?
Oh, I
cards?
did bring cards, yeah. They're in-
He's down in Denison, but I send everybody to him because he does a really good job. Most chiropractors don't do the additional things that he does, which is, you want to talk about active release real quick?
Yeah, so what I think muscles are a big part of treatment. And when we have overused muscles called accumulative trauma disorders, scar tissue builds in the muscle. So when a muscle is tight, it's because it tore down, we form scar tissue, and it becomes tighter, tighter, tighter. So we like to do something called active release technique, where we kind of put your body through its range of motion while we stretch the muscle. And its goal is to tear down scar tissue and restore function to the muscle that way. Because when you have too much scar tissue in a muscle, blood supply doesn't get to it, and we got to restore that blood supply to it.
So demonstrate how you would do like a medial condylitis.
Yeah, so
So if I've got a golfer's elbow really sore right here because it's all knotted up.
you want to get us on the camera? Can you see?
Here, let me turn around this way so you can see this part.
Okay. Yeah. So if we have tendonitis in his elbow here, what we do with active release is we look at all the muscles that attach into there, the specific ones, okay, and then we feel just for scar tissue that might have developed in those muscles, and then our goal is to put it through its range of motion while we stretch it. So we'll come here, we'll put pressure on the scar tissue, and then we'll stretch his muscle as we put pressure in there to get the range of motion we need and tear down any scar tissue that we want.
It feels really good.
So what happens with this type of thing is the muscle's so tight, there's a lot of inflammation there for people when they have this issue, is we'll put pressure on it and put the body through its range of motion for it, but it can feel uncomfortable while we do it.
Plantar fasciitis works great for that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, most chiropractors don't do that, but having this technique in addition to standard chiropractic treatments is really, really helpful. So,
It's just a way of attacking things a little bit different.
I have a question. Is there anything you could do for neuropathy?
Neuropathy, depending on if it's diabetic neuropathy or from the back, neurogenic neuropathy. Yeah, we do a lot for that. Because that's most of the time arthritic, and again, that gets back into improving motion of the spine and reducing inflammation that's on the nerves to help.
It was
help
caused
with it.
from spinal stenosis.
Yeah, so spinal stenosis, the arthritis, and that's basically causing inflammation and causing more pressure on the nerves and causing some of the issue. Now, can we get rid of the spinal stenosis or the arthritis? No. Once you have arthritis, it's there, but the thing with arthritis is you can slow the progression of it, okay? So everybody in this room gets arthritis, okay? We can't stop everybody in the room will get it. It's just how bad do we get it, and then how do we slow the progression of it? And there's a few different ways of doing
but
that.
if we correct poor mechanics, we can reduce the pain.
Reduce the pain, slow the progression of the arthritis, okay? And the ways of doing that is stay moving. you know, because that's where you get nutrients into the spine. And what happens with people with spinal stenosis, they have all this nerve pain down their legs, and they're like, every time I go to walk or do something, it hurts more. So if I just sit here, I'll be okay. You know, it doesn't hurt as bad.
I have no feeling.
Yeah. So in people with spinal stenosis, like getting in the water and doing water aerobics is great. You have gravity off of you, you open up those joint spaces, you get nutrients into the joint tissue, you're reducing inflammation, and it's making you feel better. You're slowing the progression of the arthritis by feeding the joint tissue. And the easy to do that is, like in your classes, we know like saturated fats and high, you know,
High fructose.
yeah, high fructose corn syrups, all those things create inflammation in your body and break down your joint tissue more. So improving your diet will help reduce the progression of arthritis. Exercise will do that. And then I believe in supplementing too. So like glucosamine, extra nutrients that you're not getting in your diet will help feed that tissue to slow the progression. We can't stop it again, but we can slow it down so it's not as bad as we get older. I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Is there another question?
I do.
Yeah.
So I have had tennis elbow for about 2 years in both of my arms from injury at work, and it's severe to the point where I can't straighten my arms. I've had oral steroids and I've done injections and got a slight bit of relief for like a month, and then it just comes back full force.
Yeah.
Would you be able to, I mean, I have tried dry needling, I've tried lasering.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot of different treatments for it. And that's one of those things I don't know if you try active release, can it help? Maybe it does, because it doesn't help 100% of the people, but would it help? There's a chance it would. I wouldn't know until you did it, but it sounds like you've had a lot of treatment for it. And, you know, is there other exercises like muscle building or things that create more of a balance to take stress off of it? But that's something I treat all the time. And I've seen some pretty nasty cases of plantar fasciitis that McKnight has sent to me where people are about to do the procedures, injections in their feet or things like that, surgeries for it. And we've just worked it out, busted through. It's painful type of treatment sometimes, but once you break down that scar tissue, it can really help. So if you guys have questions after the class about any injuries or anything else, you can come up. I'll give you my best analysis of it too.
All right, thank you. Next week is going to be good. Hopefully you'll all be here and everybody else that comes will be here. A lot of good stuff next week, so thanks for coming. Just fill out your critiques on your way out.
Thank you.
I didn't sure this is a good meal there. Yeah.
Did you bring this?
You know what? I left them in the car, but I have them. I'm gonna grab them.
Yeah. Yes. Ask Kelly. I'm not sure when. Yeah. This is week 10. Yeah.